All right, so today we're going to decode a fascinating set of historical notes. We're going to uncover the story of American leadership during World War II, and let me tell you, it's a story packed with immense pressure, impossible choices, and a sudden, really dramatic shift in power.
So let's start with a big question. Who really shapes history? It's huge, right? But as we're about to see, so often history really does come down to a few key people facing these unbelievable choices. And that's exactly what this is all about, the incredible power and, honestly, the weight of leadership in a moment of total global crisis.
First things first, we need to set the stage. Before we can even begin to understand the leadership, we have to get a feel for the scale of the crisis they were dealing with. And this was a truly global conflict, a world literally consumed by war.
Now this isn't just some roll call of countries. This is a snapshot of a world on fire. You've got 9 major nations all tangled up in this absolute catastrophe on a planetary scale. So just imagine the crushing weight of responsibility for any leader at that time.
Okay, so from that huge, sprawling global stage, the story in these notes suddenly zooms way in, focusing on the leadership of just one nation, the United States.
And that story, of course, begins with one of the most consequential figures of the entire 20th century, Franklin D. Roosevelt.
The path here seems pretty clear, right? Roosevelt gets elected, has the mandate of the people, but then, 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor changes everything. From that one moment on, his entire presidency becomes defined by this massive, all-consuming crisis. So the narrative seems like it's heading for a clear ending, but history is almost never that simple. Just as the war was hitting its climax, the United States was about to face this totally unexpected and dramatic shakeup at the very, very top.
And this brings us to a sudden, it's almost a jarring transition of power, one that would have these profound consequences for how the war ended and really for the entire world that came after.
The contrast here is just so stark. On one side, you have Roosevelt, the guy who was elected president 4 times. On the other, you've got Harry S. Truman. Now, he wasn't elected to be the president. He was the VP, and he was suddenly thrust into the job by tragedy, inheriting command of a world war at its absolute most critical stage.
And almost immediately, this brand new president was confronted with what is, you could argue, one of the most significant and endlessly debated decisions in all of human history.
And look how this is captured. It's framed as a question. The question mark decision to use atomic bombs. That single question mark tells you everything about the uncertainty of that moment. For the new president, this wasn't some foregone conclusion. It was a monumental choice that was going to change the world forever, and it fell squarely on his shoulders.
But, leadership isn't just about these single climactic decisions. It's also about the long-term vision. And that's why the story circles back to Roosevelt for one final, crucial point about his legacy, what he was doing to shape the world after the war was over.
This last point on FDR is just so powerful. Help frame post-war world. It shows us that his leadership was really on 2 tracks. First, of course, was winning the war. But second, and just as important, was designing the peace that would come next, creating the very structures that would go on to define the next 50 years.
And that's what brings us to our final thought. We've just traced this massive, powerful story from just a few spare lines of text, and it proves that for every fact we see recorded in history, there are countless debates, doubts, and untold stories hiding in the spaces in between. So the real question is, what are you going to seek out next?